We're going to go ahead and call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting tonight for September 18th. My name is Kyle Harrison. We have two of our members out tonight, so I am sitting in for our chairman, Mike Eccles, who is unavailable for tonight. So my first time leading and facilitating, so please forgive me if I do break a protocol. I'm sure Mr. Kelly will keep me in order here. But we are going to call to order the meeting tonight. And roll call, we do have Ms. Rosalind Parks and Randy Camp with us, so we do have a quorum today. We're going to be going over several things. We will first review the meeting minutes of August 6th, and I'm going to allow you all to look. All right, after reviewing these, can I have a motion to approve?
I wasn't here, let Ross make the motion.
I'll move that they be approved.
All right, and I will second that. So all those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All right, and as well, we will move to the approval of the meeting minutes for August 21st.
I move those minutes be approved as well.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that motion approves as well. All right, so report from Code Enforcement Officer.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. In the interest of brevity and in deference to the crowd, I'd forego the report for this evening, as it'd probably be repetitive from the August 21st meeting, and we can go ahead and move into the next item.
All right, so for the first, we're going to do a request for rezone 1190 West Spring Street. That number is petition number 18-00389, applicant Dan and Marcia Hodges. Mr. Kelly?
Thank you again. As you said, it's petition number 18-00389. The applicant, Dan and Marcia Hodges, requests a rezone of property located at 1190 West Spring Street. The property has approximately 124.6 feet of road frontage on West Spring Street and approximately 263 feet of road frontage on Swanson Drive. The property consists of .736 acres. The recommendation of the Code Department is for approval. The property is presently zoned M1. The requested zoning classification is B3. Requested zoning will permit a use that is suitable in view of the use and development of adjacent and nearby property. The change of zoning will not adversely affect the existing and adjacent property. Subject property does have restricted economic use as currently zoned. The change of zoning will not cause an excessive or burdensome use of existing streets, transportation facilities, utilities, or schools, and the future land use plan indicates the property should be public/institutional, which just shows we need to update our future land use plan.
Okay. Do we have any comments from the owner or representative? Anyone need to have any comments from the public? Please step forward, sir.
I'm just about to slam. I can hear you good, I can hardly hear him.
I will speak straighter into the microphone.
Thank you. Any comments? Do I have a recommendation to either approve or deny?
Move we approve.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. It is approved.
Okay.
Moving on to our second item of business, certificate of appropriateness for 202 East Spring Street. Mr. Kelly?
Thank you again. We normally don't make any recommendation on this. It's just a consideration of the aesthetics and the site design for the L.R. Burger location in conformance with the corridor design overlay requirements.
Is anyone here to speak on behalf? Come on forward, please.
Hey, how are you doing?
Doing well, thank you.
Do you have the documents that we provided?
We do.
Okay. My name's Chris Collin. I am the owner of Local Restaurant Group, which encompasses Local Republic in downtown Lawrenceville. And this particular project is a spin-off of Local Republic. It's going to be called LR Burger. We're extremely excited to be coming to the city of Monroe. My family relocated here from Gwinnett County, but my parents have lived in Monroe for 25 years, so it's very nice to be coming home. We live in the St. Ives community inside the city limits of Monroe. Just a little bit about our family. We provided some pictures of what the restaurant is going to be looking like. We are renovating the 202 East Spring Street. It's an old gas station. It was most recently an auto sales location. But we're going to be renovating that space and putting a restaurant in there that focuses predominantly on hamburgers, fresh-cut French fries, and some other food items. But we're excited about the design. We feel like it meets with the direction that the city's going. We're renovating the space to pay homage to its original intention, and it's going to kind of look like a retro gas station style to it. Is there anything you guys would like to ask me? All right.
No, I do want to know traffic patterns. I could see you have to be dependent on what's at hand. Is that going to work for you well?
I believe so. We have, in addition to the car lot, we also purchased the building that was behind the car lot. That was the attorney's office, and that's been demolished. And the plan is to have a rear entrance where patrons and deliveries can be accepted and come through the back of the building behind and into the parking lot alongside. So I believe the traffic patterns are going to be perfect for entering and exiting the parking lot.
Okay. Thank you.
I see what you're doing to the building facade. What site improvements are you repaving? What do you have intentions for the site itself?
Yes, so a large portion of the front of the building is going to be a patio area. You can kind of see that in some of the renderings, some community tables out there where patrons will be able to sit down and enjoy themselves. And then also the covered area that used to be where the gas pumps were underneath we want to have flexibility, so that can kind of be indoor, outdoor seatings where the side of that opens up and expands the patio across the entire front of the building. We're looking at resurfacing the parking lot. That is in our budget to do, so it would be an improvement. But we definitely want the exterior of the building to add something to the downtown area.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you for the time.
Anyone here on behalf of the public have any questions or comments? All right. Well, I will receive a motion to approve or deny.
If we approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, on to our third item of the night. And forgive us, we have to scroll. It takes a little bit to get a request for rezone at 318 Alcovey Street and 409 Greenwood Drive. Mr. Kelly.
Yes, sir. Thank you again. I do need to make one correction on the cover sheet. It was referenced as the VFW site, but it is actually the American Legion site, just to make that clear for everybody. The applicant proposes to repurpose the land and buildings at that site to develop a planned residential development. The request includes a portion of 409 Greenwood Drive tract to be taken into the PRD, with the remainder to remain R1 with its current frontage on Greenwood Drive. A little background on the property. The property's been utilized as the American Legion post for quite some time. The American Legion intends to relocate, which presents a substantial opportunity to achieve the development of infill development near the town center that offers a variety of housing options and amenities. This is petition number 1800387 and also 1800388. The applicant, MUL Properties LLC, requests a rezone for property located at 318 Alcovey Street and 409 Greenwood Drive. The project has approximately 983.2 feet of road frontage on Alcovey Street. Property consists of 17 acres. The recommendation of the Code Department is for approval. The property is presently zoned P and R1. The requested zoning classification is PRD, which is Planned Residential District. The requested zoning will permit a use that is suitable in view of the use and development of adjacent and nearby property. The change of zoning will not adversely affect the existing and adjacent property. Subject property does have restricted economic use as currently zoned. The change of zoning will not cause an excessive or burdensome use of existing streets, transportation facilities, utilities, or schools. The future land use plan indicates the property should be commercial.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kelly. Is anyone here with the applicant to share with us?
Yes, good evening, Commission. It is a pleasure to be before you tonight. I know there are a lot of people here interested in this project, a lot of people concerned about this project. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Paul Rosenthal. I am a 17-year resident of the town. I live here, I work here, and I play here. And I know there's a lot of people who are concerned about this project, but I can honestly tell you that I could not be more excited about this project. At the end of the day, this is the first true major large-scale infill project coming to downtown Monroe in more than 50 years. When we talk to people day in and day out, they say, we love the in-town feel of Monroe, and this is an opportunity for us to bring more real housing rooftop options into downtown Monroe so that we can have a true live, work, play environment for those who want it. I want to get into all of the details of the project. I have a lot of details that I want to show you, explain to you, answer any questions that you have. I do want to start from the outset because I know there's a lot of concern about this issue of interconnectivity. I had the pleasure of meeting with about 90 of the residents of Pollock Subdivision on June 26th of this year at their request, because my original plan called for interconnectivity of this project into the Pollock Subdivision Road via Greenwood Drive. At that meeting, I met with those folks, and it was quite clear that they did not want interconnectivity into their subdivision. So at their request, I removed the interconnectivity. So we went back to the drawing board and redrew this project such that it will not interconnect with Greenwood Drive. Since that meeting on June 26, I have been made aware that there's been lots of conjecture and speculation about somehow I'm trying to nefariously get the interconnectivity back through in some way, shape, or form. So I just want you to know, but more importantly, I want the public to know that the project that I have named Veterans Walk to honor our veterans in light of its American Legion location will not connect to Greenwood Drive, period. It will not connect to Greenwood Drive. Now, I'd love to show you about this project. So let me see if my PowerPoint can work. The subject property is here. As you can see, it's 17 acres, which is the American Legion tract. For those of you that don't know, the existing American Legion building was built in 1954. Prior to the hospital and the medical building going in, all of that land used to be part of the American Legion as well. So originally, the American Legion had over 50 acres, and that land has sort of pared down to where now the American Legion property is approximately 15.8 acres. The property that fronts on Greenwood Drive, a portion of it is being brought into the American Legion project or the Veterans Walk project, with the remainder of it being left on Greenwood Drive for residential lots, which is the subject of the variance request that we have next. But just to give you a site view of where we are, we have Alcovey Street running into town, so if you head north, that takes you into town. You get to the back of the old mill here off of Barrett. Breedlove Drive is over here, and of course the old hospital that has been repurposed into a special use hospital is there just to the south of the subject property. Veterans Walk is a new walkable, mixed-use, mixed parcel type project that I think is very good for Monroe. Some people may not think so, but I fervently believe in it. There's a few reasons why. I think a real important one is that by doing Veterans Walk the way that I'm proposing, is it will save a historically significant building. I don't know if many of you happen to get on Facebook. I do every now and then. Yesterday, I had the pleasure of reading a great piece posted by the Monroe Museum. Some of you may have seen it. The Monroe Museum post yesterday talked about how there were a couple of really beautiful, beautiful historic buildings that downtown Monroe lost in the name of progress. One of them being Hotel Monroe over there where we now have Wells Fargo, lost sometime in the 60s. And then the First Methodist Church, just right across the corner from us here, now a parking lot, lost sometime, I think, in the 90s. Now, this is a historically significant building, built in 1954, built for the purpose of allowing our veterans a place to gather. I can't tell you the number of people I've spoken with who have talked about having their proms there, their rehearsal dinners and other meetings. By doing Veterans Walk this way, this historically significant building will be preserved. That's sort of my biggest passion about this project. For those of you that don't know, I bought the Monroe Cotton Mills 10 and a half years ago now, and the reason we bought it was because it was going to be sold to someone who was going to tear it down brick by brick and sell off the parts. I had the pleasure of getting to know Ms. Snell, who's the realtor representing the commanders of the American Legion, who's here tonight, when I started looking at this project about probably 8 months ago. And the same sort of thing happened. There was another buyer who was looking at the project. And I will be very candid and honest with you. The finances of this project teeter right on the border of working or not working. And one of the primary reasons why is because the budget includes over $1 million being reinvested into the American Legion building itself to save it, preserve it, and to honor the history, not only this project of this building, but the veterans who have fellowshiped there in the days before. If this property had been sold to the folks that I was essentially competing with, most likely the building would have been razed. Most likely we would have had a cookie-cutter cul-de-sac neighborhood go in here. This project that you have proposed before you tonight is not cookie-cutter. It is not suburbia. It is progressive, forward-thinking, true in-town development that is good for this town. So it saves a historically significant building, but it also will set the standard for quality infill development. It's real important to do infill development right. You have to do it right. I have lived in this town long enough, and I know those before me have as well, to see projects be promised to be done well, and then the aftermath result simply is not what we were promised, is not what we expected, and is not what we got. I am proud to stand before you tonight and tell you to go to 601 South Madison Avenue, to go to 603 South Broad Street, to go to 301, 303, and 307 East Church Street, and I'll keep giving you the list if I need to, of the varied historic structures that I have personally seen to being saved and restored properly in this town over the last 17 years that I've lived here. So my record speaks for itself. I am not just talking about something that may be pretty or something that may look good. I'm talking from experience about how I invest my life, blood, sweat, and tears into this town, and I will do it right. And I am excited to do this project because then it can be the standard bearer that this town looks to and says, if you want to come to this town, if you want to build in this town, we want it to look like that, at least, or better. I'm not a developer that doesn't live in town. I live a block from here, 116 William Street. I've renovated 3 of the homes on that street myself personally. So I'm not going anywhere, and I'm excited to be able to set the standard for a good quality in-town infill development. The other reason why I love this project is because it's market-based. I'm not asking for tax credits. This isn't what we call a LIHTC project. This isn't an age-restricted project, 55 plus only. This is a market-based project. We will build it. We will sell to developers and builders. It will build the individual units themselves. And it will be a market-based project that is not looking to tax credits or some sort of age restriction structure to make the project work, which I think is very important for the market. The project is truly a mixed-use, mixed housing type project with a wide range of price points. If you cannot afford a home, there will be nice luxury apartments to rent in this project. If you want the biggest home, there will be 3,000 square foot plus homes in excess of $500,000 in this project. There's a wide range of housing options for residents in this project. And the last important reason why I think that Veterans Walk is going to be good for Monroe is that it does promote real walkability and street grid interconnectivity with a real infill T&D or traditional neighborhood development style. From the front door of the existing American Legion building to the front door of our courthouse is 0.76 miles. I have walked it myself a couple of different times and measured it with Google Maps and my iPhone. And so it's less than a 3/4 of a mile walk from this project into the downtown core. We have a lot of new restaurants. We heard from LR Burger coming in. We have a lot of new retail here and new coming in, and they are looking for quality rooftops to buy from their businesses. And these rooftops that I'm proposing to bring into Veterans Walk will be those types of rooftops that that the retailers are looking for. A few of the project features just to go over, and then we'll get into the site plan a little bit itself. There's multiple housing options. They're all walkable in proximity to one another. The housing options, which I love about this, they all center around the beautifully restored historic American Legion building. It will serve as essentially the clubhouse and the hub for the community itself. All of the streets will be publicly dedicated streets. Prior to the crash, many of you may have dealt with or experienced these private drive subdivisions, and then all of a sudden the road is worn out and not available to be maintained because the HOA doesn't exist. All of these streets within the project will be dedicated city streets. They'll have double-line sidewalks, street trees, all underground utilities, and a common decorative lighting scheme, all approved by the city. This is a big one for me. I love homes, and I love people more than I love cars. Now, I do like nice cars, and I like fast cars, but most of our neighborhoods built in the last 50 years focus on the car and not the people. The garage is front-loaded right in your face. We leave the garage door up, all our junk is sitting out there for everyone to see. There will not be any front-loaded garages in the project at all, and nearly every single residence will be serviced by rear alley drives. There are a few homes on the very back side that we can't get the rear alley drive in, so they will have rear-loaded garages, but there will be no front-loaded garages of any type throughout the property. There's ample open green space we'll look at in a few minutes. I think there's 6 different passive parks along with the pool area that will allow for the residents to have a good passive and active outdoor activities. Cohesive design standards. Each particular part of the project will have its own essential covenants and restrictions with a overarching HOA that controls it, ensuring that the residences throughout the project are built correctly. I will personally be the architectural review committee for the entire project until it is completely built out. The other thing that I'm excited about is traditional neighborhood developments of 100 years ago, the ones that we all say that we like and that we want to live in, were not built by the same person. They were built with multiple builders on different, multiple builders taking different lots. We will not have a single builder for this project. We will have multiple builders, and the reason for that is to ensure that we have more organic growth of the community and that the project doesn't feel cookie cutter to where every third building looks exactly like the last third building that you come across. It will be much more organic in its growth, much like the residences and the homes that folks say today that they want to live in here in the downtown core of Monroe. Here's our site plan. I'll be happy to, I know it's a little small up on the screen, and there's one over there on the color board for you. Here's the clubhouse itself. That's the existing original American Legion building. And here is Alcovey Street. Here is Greenwood Drive with Pollock subdivision. There is no interconnectivity. There is no connecting road. The single-family residences, which I'll talk about in a moment, line sort of the back and the side to the south. There are brownstones here, which are attached single-family homes to the south of the clubhouse. There are condo flats for empty nesters, 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo flats, all serviced by elevators with covered parking to the north. And then there's an apartment building here fronting on the street as well, all 17 acres. This is just one of the site plans that the engineers have done showing the basics of what a streetscape will look like. Oop, let me go back. You can see here just what the streetscape looks like to where you have a road, you have double-line street trees, double-line sidewalks, and your porches, where everybody used to hang out and talk, are right up on the road. They're not 100 feet off the road. to where you don't know and can't see your neighbors. They're not a garage in your face. Instead, it's a porch in your face. The porches will all be approximately 5 to 10 feet right off of the sidewalk itself. Next, we have just an artist rendering. This is an aerial from Alcovey Street. Here's the clubhouse. Here's the apartment building. Here are the condo buildings to the north. Here are some of the residences, single-family detached residences to the south. And here you can just see a little bit of the corner of the brownstones. The project has 3 different entrances from Alcovey. We did want to have more entrances on Sherwood and on Greenwood, and we are not connecting to Greenwood. I will go back and show this because there's been some question on that. We are leaving a reserve strip to connect to Sherwood if we're able to. And let me explain that so that there's no question, because I was very clear in my meeting on June 26, and I'm going to be very clear here again tonight, but it seems that my versions get modified after they leave the room. I'm not connecting to Greenwood Drive. Originally, I had wanted to connect to Greenwood Drive, but I'm not doing that. I would love to connect to Sherwood Drive because dead-end streets, where there's darkness, there's not light. And dead-end streets usually bring crime, and I have spoken with police, and there seems to be crime and trash left at the end of Sherwood. So I would love to connect to it. When I originally got the drawing from the first engineer back, we thought we were going to be able to connect to Sherwood just off of the existing end of Sherwood. But essentially, that end of Sherwood is in the 75-foot creek buffer, and we cannot connect to it. If I am able to acquire this piece of land from a local landlord, then I could demolish those 2 rentals, and I could curve and connect Sherwood into the project. This pocket park, which you'll see in a few moments on another drawing, I am leaving in the master plan as what's called a reserve strip. So for now, it will be a pocket park. If I am ever able to connect to Sherwood by buying this parcel, I would have to reroute Sherwood. I would have to pay to reroute Sherwood. It would curve and it would come in this way, if you can see that. That is a possibility. There's no hidden agenda about that. I would love to connect to Sherwood because what experience tells us in history is when we have these dead-end streets, we end up with things at the end of dead-end streets that we don't want. And right now, if you've ever driven down Sherwood, if you haven't, I encourage you to do so, you have to use somebody's driveway to turn around. There's no way to turn around on Sherwood right now. But Greenwood, we're not connecting to it. We are leaving a reserve so that hopefully we could connect to Sherwood in the future. I don't think it will be a possibility practically due to the costs, but I would love to if we can. Back to the aerials. This is from Alcovey. You can see the building, the American Legion building with the pool in the background. I'll come back to the fire pit in a moment. Apartment building, condo building, single-family residentials, and brownstones. On to the next aerial. This is looking from the back of the property, almost as if you're on the creek, in a drone over the creek, looking towards Alcovey. So Alcovey's up here above you in the foreground, apartment building, condo buildings, the pool, fire pit, American Legion, brownstones here to your right, some single family below you. Few of the amenities. We've talked about them, but I'll highlight them. The clubhouse is probably the biggest amenity. Approximately 1/3 of the 8,000 square feet of the American Legion building will be dedicated for use for the residents as their clubhouse. It'll include a large meeting room. It'll include a theater room, a workout room. It will have pool-based bathrooms for use of the pool, etc. In addition, approximately 1/2 to 2/3 of the space will be reserved for light commercial. It is our desire to land a restaurant in part of that, a neighborhood cafe that's open for lunch and breakfast and maybe dinner a couple of nights a week, but a neighborhood cafe that offers lunch and breakfast 5 to 6 days a week, along with a restaurant, a dinner menu 2 or 3 nights a week, would be our desire to land one to the north of the building itself. The rest of the property, the rest of the building would be light commercial, such as offices. We'll build out 2 to 3 spec offices so that hopefully as we sell off units to, say, an accountant, an architect, sell off homes to an accountant, an architect, or an attorney, and he wants an office that he can walk to, there's 2 or 3 light offices that can be rented out for light commercial uses. And again, hopefully we can also land a restaurant as well. That's the clubhouse. That's sort of the center of the entire project. That's sort of ground zero where everyone will come. Additionally, there are 6 passive parks, a little hard to see if you see the blue. All the green in front of the Legion will be retained. All those old pecans and oaks in front of the Legion will be retained. To the south of the Legion, there's additional pecans that are going to be retained. Then there's a passive park up here that could become a road one day. There's 2 or 3 additional passive parks here into the back corner of the project as well. Plenty of passive park areas that will all be regularly maintained by the HOA that will allow the residents to have good areas to work. Housing, to play, excuse me. Here we have the pool, hot tub. This will be a pool directly to the south of the building itself. It will be a large junior Olympic or bigger size pool. It will have a hot tub feature, and it will be an area where the residents, of course, regularly gather. Next, we have a tot lot and a fire pit. This is another one that I'm very excited about. Maybe a lot of people don't get excited about history, but I do. So I have an 8-year-old and 11-year-old, so they've kind of outgrown the tot lot idea, but we will have a small playground for families, for mothers, and small children. But right here is the fire pit. I don't know anyone who's lived in this town long enough who hasn't been given some chicken dinner tickets to go by the American Legion on Saturday and pick up their chicken dinner, either cooked by First Christian Church or one of the other many folks who have used the fire pit. I'm excited to tell you that that's going to be my personal pet project. Exactly how the fire pit gets repurposed, I cannot tell you today. What I can tell you is this, is I'm going to save that fire pit. It will become some sort of fire pit feature. Maybe it becomes a grill again. Maybe it becomes a water fountain with fire in it. I don't know. But it will be saved and repurposed for the community to enjoy and use. And hopefully for folks who were given chicken dinner tickets, such as myself, by Marvin Sarles every time he went out there and cooked chicken dinners for the First Christian Church. Hopefully I'll be able to take some of my grandchildren out there and say, this fire pit has been here for more than 100 years. I'm building this project not for me, I'm building this project for my grandchildren. So that fire pit will be repurposed and saved, and I'm excited about that. Housing overview. The project consists of a total of 126 housing units, 60 detached single-family homes, 16 attached brownstones, 32 bedroom condos that will be located in 2 15-unit 3-story buildings, and then 20 luxury apartments in a single 3-story building. All of the condos and the apartments will have covered parking either underneath the building or to the rear of the property itself. Like I said, a total of 126 housing units. The project will have an overall density of 7.4 units to the acre. That is not an excessive level of density given other types of projects in the area. I believe our R2 allows 6 units to the acre as it is right now, and you can even get up to 10 units to an acre. So this is a total of 7.4 units to acre with an overall blended mix, and more than 3.5 acres, or 21% of the projects, being retained in open space. To show you the types of houses and housing options a little bit, I have a few exemplary photos. Several people have asked me, what is this project like? I don't like to compare because I want it to be its own project. I want Veterans Walk to be a project that people know about and drive to Monroe to see. But the best example locally that I can give you is Clark's Grove in Covington. So if you've been to Clark's Grove in Covington and you've seen that project, that is a really good example, a really good similar type project where there's a couple of central parcels that are used for a community purpose. There it's a Montessori school. Here it'll be a clubhouse with mixed housing options located all around the periphery, single family, condos, and brownstones. And several of the pictures that we look at actually are examples of homes straight out of Clark's Grove. So if you look here on this map, the yellow highlighted area, those are the single-family residences, detached single-family residences, all of them except for 2 or 3 in the back with rear alley drives, so all the garages are located to the rear of the homes. You can see just some examples of photos that we took. I took them from Clark's Grove primarily and a few other neighborhoods in the Covington area. So these are a few examples. Your porches are right up on the road. Your sidewalks are right there, and you walk right to the front door in about 15 feet. Another few examples of some homes in the detached single-family area. Both single-story and 2-story. These homes can range anywhere in size from 1,600 square feet in excess of 3,000 square feet. If someone wants a small home but they want it detached, then you can build a more cottage-style feel. such as this one here. If you want a large home, you can build a 2-story here. So you could have someone who's retired, who doesn't have children, that still doesn't want to be in a condo, they want a single-family home, they could go into a smaller cottage-style house in this area, or someone with a growing family that needs 3,200 square feet could go into a larger 2-story, 4-bedroom, 3.5-bath type home in this area. That's the beauty of the flexibility of this project. Here we have the attached brownstones. These would be single-family brownstones with covered parking to the rear. Some people call brownstones townhomes. You can call them a townhome if you want. These are some examples of the brownstones that are actually located in Clarks Grove, but they are attached with parapet or common brick wall homes next door to each other. There's 16 of these, 4 buildings of 4. These will face onto go back here and you can see, they'll face onto the clubhouse area there to the north. So just a couple exemplary photos of these, the attached brownstones. The 2-bedroom condo flats, I'm probably most excited about these because I think there's a need. There are folks who through the years have told me, specifically folks that I know say, will you build some condos? Will you build some brownstones in town? And I dismiss them, and here I am 10 years later, and I am building some brownstones and condos. These condos are 2-bedroom, 2 and 2.5-bath flats. They're elevator, they're rear access. You can walk in the front door. There is a brand new one of these that was just built in Clarks Grove. They pre-sold 7 of the 11 units. These are going to be successful. They're going to be very popular for folks who have raised their family here in Monroe, don't want to leave the town, but don't need the headache of the maintenance of a yard anymore, and don't need a bunch of rooms. So these can range in size anywhere from 1,200 square feet up to 1,800 square feet, but they stay in that 2-bedroom to 2.5-bath size, and they're very manageable, but very nice, high-quality units that folks can live in, can own, and all the parking is covered in the rear. I'm really excited about these. I literally have a list of about 6 people who've already told me that they want one as soon as we start building them. I can show you a few examples. This is the finished, completed condo building in Phase 1 of Clarks Grove that was built back in about 2009. And then let me tell you a little bit about the inspiration. Some of you may recognize that photo right there, which is the Walton Hotel. So whenever you try and preserve history, if it's already been torn down, then there's only so much preservation you can do. So I'm trying to preserve the history of the American Legion building by preventing it from being torn down. But we also can honor history by looking to some of our architectural features in the town. So the inspirational architectural feature building that I'm using is the Walton Hotel, located right next to my office here in downtown Monroe. And what I mean by that is this, is it has strong architectural brick fenestration features that we will mimic and duplicate as we design the 2 condo buildings and the apartment building, such as the arched palladium windows on both the first, second, and third story, the corbels along the top, the towers, I'm not going to get the right terminology, the finials on the very top corners. We'll take a lot of those features, I'll take them to the architect and say, let's design the building to honor the look of the Walton Hotel. So I'm excited to tell you that these 3 buildings, the 1 apartment building and the 2 condo buildings, will have they will be red brick, that I know, and they will honor a lot of the features of the Walton Hotel building itself. This is the brand new building in Clarks Grove that was just finished. The gentleman that built it, Mr. Randy Vinson, is a great land planner and a great visionary. He actually helped me with the initial conceptual site plan for Veterans Walk, helped me work through a lot of those before he passed the torch on to my civil engineer, land planner that I'm using now to get the final plans in place. So this building was just finished in maybe April, May, June. They pre-sold, I believe, 7 of the 11 units. They have 2 or 3 left. Wildly successful building just half an hour south of us in Covington. And Clarks Grove is a similar distance from their courthouse. Our courthouse is 3/4 of a mile from this project. Their courthouse is about 0.8 of a mile from Clarks Grove. The luxury apartment building will also be fronting on Alcovey Street. It'll be a similar looking building, but instead of it being individually sold condos to individuals, it will be common ownership and will be managed and maintained like an apartment complex would be with 20 nice high-end apartment units. Again, the look of the structure will be similar to the Walton Hotel that you see right here in downtown. The project will be phased so that not only we can afford it, but also so that it builds out properly. And you can see the phasing here highlighted on this map. Essentially, the multifamily options, which would be the brownstones, the condos, the apartments, the clubhouse itself, and 18 of the 60 single-family residences would be built in Phase 1, which is here highlighted in the green, and then Phase 2 will be built second, which is the remainder of the single-family residential units. Y'all may not know this, but I'm sure that you do, but I want to highlight this because I'm excited about this. Our zoning ordinance states many goals, various goals for planned developments that when we're looking at a planned development that we want to meet, and I'm excited to tell you that we meet every single one of them except for one, and one of those I wanted to, but the neighborhood didn't want me to connect. So I want to go through these because it's really important to understand that years past, I think maybe in 2012 or 2013, we passed a zoning ordinance that said, this is what we want building and construction to look like. This is how we want neighborhoods to be built. This project meets those goals. This project accomplishes and checks off all of those things. And I want to go through these. There's 13 of them, but I think they're important. Parking facilities should not be in the front. They should only be utilized in rare circumstances. There's no front-loaded parking along Alcovey Street. Everything is to the rear. So we have that one met. Vast expanses of asphalt concrete shouldn't be visible from public right-of-ways. Parking should be interspersed with appropriate landscaping, island buffers, and strips. We've done all that on this site plan. We're not going to have a big, vast concrete asphalt parking lot right in your face. Instead, the green space right in front of the Legion building itself will be preserved. Walkability of all parcels should be a priority in planning and design. All of these homes, all of these living units will be able to easily walk not only to the clubhouse, but also an easy 3/4 of a mile walk to downtown. That is met. Interconnectivity of parcels. This project interconnects well amongst itself, but we are not interconnecting to any other street other than Alcovey at the request of the Pollock subdivision folks, which is fine, so we don't meet that goal. Building setbacks should be in conformity to the surrounding areas. Deep front setbacks are discouraged, and zero lot line setbacks are encouraged throughout appropriate areas of the city core, which this is one of those important core city areas where we have some zero lot setbacks along the frontage there of the condo building and the apartment building. Street trees, along with appropriate approved landscape plans, should be considered. We've got a great landscape architect on board who's going to give us a heavy-duty landscape plan. We have over $200,000 identified for the landscaping package alone for this project, and we're looking forward to it being a beautiful project. All planned development districts should have sidewalks, street-lined sidewalks with street trees, minimum of 5 feet and a minimum of 2 feet with a planter. We have, I think, a 4-foot planter with street trees all along the streets. We meet that. Common lighting fixtures, all sorts of hardscape materials, trash receptacles will all be consistent throughout. There'll be multiple pavilions all along the common passive park areas that will be for use by the residents and controlled by the HOA. This is one that I'm real excited about. Mixed form of residential dwelling units is highly encouraged. Attached and detached single-family units along with multifamily units can coexist harmoniously in close proximity. We have that here. Retail, professional, commercial can be encouraged with proper planning to coexist harmoniously so that we have live, work, play, and walkable type communities. That's exactly what this project calls for and exactly what this project is. Traditional neighborhood designs, including the use of rear alley drives. We use rear alley drives on about 98% of all of the units in this project, and I'm excited for that. There won't be any front-loaded garages. Front-facing garages, cul-de-sacs, and residential developments are not well interconnected, should be avoided. We're as interconnected as we can. We have no front-facing garages, and we have no cul-de-sacs. We have one turnaround that has a pocket park in the middle of it. And that's just required due to the design. So we meet all of those goals. And then I believe the last one is, no vinyl siding or metal sided Butler buildings. We will have no vinyl siding whatsoever in this project. There will be no slabs on grade for the single-family residentials. They will all be on crawls or basements or raised slabs. So this is not cheap construction. This is all a high-quality project. All of the exterior will be brick, wood, masonry products, or other types of hardy planks and the like that will promote the traditional and historic design standards that we see predominantly through the in-town neighborhoods. So I'm excited to tell you that all of those 12 of those 13 goals that this zoning ordinance says we should meet are met with this project, and I'm proud of that because it's the right type of build-out for this community. It's the right time for this type of build-out. We've all heard about these 4 restaurants that we've got coming in the next 18 months. Those restaurants are looking for additional rooftops to fill their seats, and this type of project will do that. So in summary, I'm asking for a recommendation for approval from this commission to send up to mayor and council that the 17-acre parcel that is the Alcovey, on Alcovey Street, that is the American Legion with about 1.2 acres from the Greenwood track on this side of the creek, be zoned from P and R1 to PRD with the uses of 60 single-family detached homes, 16 attached brownstones, 30 two-bedroom condos, 20 apartments, the repurposed light commercial American Legion building itself, and with all the additional conditions that are outlined in the rezone application. I won't get into all of those and list them all out, but there's a whole host of them in there, and I'm happy to talk through and go over any of them as you would like me to. That's it. I'm excited about Veterans Walk, and I'm asking for a recommendation of approval from this board, and I'll be happy to answer any questions as well.
That's a lot. And by the way, I cooked a lot of those chickens on those fire pits, and so did a lot of people in this room. I'm really anxious to hear comments and questions from the audience here, so.
Will there be a perimeter around the project? I mean, you talked about walkability. Is there going to be any sort of fencing around it in the back to separate the other houses from the
Yeah, let's hold off on questions from the public directed to Mr. Rosenthal.
No,
And
that's fine. Yeah, but our questions, I'm passing the torch to you guys out there, but
do we have any from Mr. Rosenthal? Have any? Just out of curiosity, what price points are you targeting? I know you said you're going to have a mixed range and sizes and.
Sure. So let me give you both house sizes and price points. On the apartments, those apartments will range in size from 900 square feet up to 1,400 square feet, with an average being approximately 1,200 square feet, with a rental price range of $950 to $1,250. On the condos themselves, smallest condo will be about 1,200 square feet. They'll go up to about 1,800 square feet. The average will be about 1,400 square feet. The price points on the condos would be basically low 200s to 275. The average expected to be about 225. Most of the units that have been selling in Clarks Grove in the last year have actually been in the 240 to 250 range. So we're being conservative and putting those in more of the 225 range. The brownstones themselves will have an average size of, will be in range of size from 1,300 to 2,500 square feet, with an average size of 1,600 square feet. The price range for the brownstones is $225 to $295, with an average price of $250. And then the homes can vary widely. As I talked about, you could have a cottage feel all the way down to 1,600 square feet, in excess of 3,000 square feet. We expect the average home to be approximately 2,400 square feet. Most of the TND neighborhoods that we look at, they range between 2,000 and 2,500 square feet is sort of your average. And we see those average home prices being $325 to $350. They could go as low as $250 if you have a smaller 1,600 square foot cottage, and they certainly can and will go north of $450 and $500, depending upon the size. If you get a corner lot, put a 3,500 square foot home there, they could go over. But the average single-family detached home that we're talking about, you're in a price point of $300 to $350, most of them.
Okay. Any further questions for Mr. Rosenthal?
no.
All right.
Let the gentleman.
Yeah, we're gonna-
Third row.
We're going to open this up to allow people to, if you would though, please come forward and speak at the podium for us.
First, I'd like to
commend you for an excellent plan for building and housing and so forth, and we only have one objection. I'm Dr. Bill Hartley, better known to my neighbors as Bill, which is what it ought to be. We have an opposition to the zoning variance on Greenwood Drive. We do not want 4 houses on 3 lots. And I've sat here tonight and heard all of this expansion of all the property that's there and do not understand
Mr. Chairman?
why
Yeah.
we need to come into our subdivision and disrupt a historic district of Monroe. We oppose it for 2 reasons.
Okay, hold on one second for me. Let us finish. We got 2 here. The first one is for the rezone. That portion that you're speaking of will be in the second one. And I'd like to allow them to speak on that before, so if.
They want to speak to.
Let
Well,
us
I'm trying
finish
to give
this
you the
part
reason-
about
reason we
rezoning.
want the opposition. We
Yeah.
oppose it.
Okay, I understand. What I'm saying is, we're rezoning, the first one
Yeah.
is for the rezone to the PRD. The second one will be for those lots.
Okay, so you're doing the first one first.
Correct.
All right.
Is that correct, Mr. Kelly?
Yes, sir. This is for the rezone. The other one is for the variance request.
Correct.
We'll,
I thought it was presented as one.
the rezone portion is to take a part of the Greenwood tract and add it to the Veterans Walk, which is what we're talking about now. And then the next petition will be for the variance for the street frontage for the remainder of that lot.
Well, that's what I'm speaking to. I'm speaking to the fact that we're opposed to rezoning Greenwood, which is a part of your project,
Okay,
okay?
understood.
We have 2 reasons that we oppose it. Number one, this zoning has been in effect ever since this community has started back in the 50s and the 60s, requiring at least 100 feet frontage for a house. And Paul is asking for 77 feet and wants to put 4 houses on 3 lots with 2 driveways. We are opposed to that, and we're opposed because it will change the character of our community. Secondly, we're opposed to it because this will set a precedent for the other lots that are empty in our community for people to come and ask for the same kind of variance in it. And so we would like for you to reject that part of the plan that fronts Greenwood Drive, and we'd love for Paul to build 3 very nice houses on the 3 lots that he owns. Thank you.
Okay. Can I? If y'all don't mind, I'd like to clarify that the variance portion that would allow for additional lots and the reduced road frontage isn't even under consideration at this point. The rezone is just for the portion of the Greenwood tract that would be taken into Veterans Walk. So that's what we're discussing now. The remainder of the lot would be what's considered in the variance, and it's certainly large enough to contain three lots with the 100-foot. Only a portion that's being taken into the PRD.
Changing our neighborhood, we don't want that.
That, in order to square up the Veterans Walk. I could let Mr. Rosenthal address it. It's,
Can I address your community and speak to that issue? And let me see if I can help you on this to shorten this up. The tract of land that I purchased from Carol Dew about 3 weeks ago is 3.104 acres, okay?
Can you show us on the,
I'm going to show you actually on this large format here.
Okay.
And I can probably get back to it on that and show you. So I have a plat here that will try and hopefully make this make sense. Okay. The American Legion property is 15.748 acres, okay? I'm taking 1.2 acres off the back that will not affect the neighborhood and adding it to the American Legion project. So I'm drawing a red line right now so that the neighbors can see it. And if you look at this line that I'm drawing, okay, if I can show you this. I bought 3.1 acres from Carol Dew 2 weeks ago. I'm taking 1.2 of it that's on the other side of the creek, not in your neighborhood, on the other side of the creek, and adding it to the American Legion property so that the rezone that I'm asking for now is for 17 acres. As soon as we get through this one, I'm asking for a variance, and if you oppose it, that's fine, on 1.852 acres, the remaining frontage, which is this area here. This piece of dirt, 1.852 acres, will not be rezoned. It will remain R1. This question that is before them now is for this 17-acre piece, which does include 1.2 acres of Carol Dew's former property, but it's all, here's the creek line. You see that? That's your creek line. All of the 1.2 acres is down on what I call the American Legion side of the creek. So I'm not asking to rezone any property that fronts on Greenwood Drive. In fact, 1.852 acres on Greenwood Drive will remain R1, regardless of what happens on any variance request.
And if I may interrupt to ask Mr. Kelly this question, so that portion that remains on Greenwood Drive then will stay under R1 and cannot be smaller, it'll stay 100-foot for R1 purposes, correct?
Yeah, the remainder of that property would be
That
R1
faces the
zoning.
Greenwood side.
That fronts on Greenwood. The remainder of that parcel would have 300-foot frontage, which could be subdivided according to R1A regulations or by the request made for the variance, depending on how y'all recommend, or how.
I want to make
eventually
sure I
council
heard
approves or doesn't.
the gentleman's comments correctly, that was one of the big concerns, that they didn't want the neighborhood changed to where somebody could come into a vacant lot on Greenwood and then reduce it down. And that would not be the case under this. Is that correct?
It could be asked for in the future.
It could be asked for in the future, but
but-
as of right now, it would not be.
Correct. And another difference on this too, if I may, there's some conditions that are offered in exchange for the variance, which I don't know that anybody else would be willing to do, but that would be up to them to decide down the road.
Okay. Any other comments from anyone in the public?
When do the 4 houses come into play? 3 lots? Okay, thank you.
No problem. Anyone else have any comments or questions before we bring this to a vote?
Would there be a perimeter around the project at all to separate the houses on Greenwood from the project?
Hey, if you could come up to the mic so that this is being broadcast, so everyone can hear at home.
My name is Richard Roberts. I
Yes, sir.
live right in that little white house there. It's 20 feet off the curb. I need to know, are you going to build any wall, any berm, any fence, or anything else? You talk about walkability. Are they going to be able to just walk around, walk on my property, or do anything? Or are they going to have a perimeter there that separates my property from theirs? Thank you.
Are there any planned amenities for fencing and the like?
We will be happy to add, I do know that that particular area, it calls for fencing as well as Leland cypress plants along that area. I'll speak to it this way, is we will be happy to address any buffering. Our application says that we will do all necessary fencing and natural buffering required. What I will say about Greenwood Drive, though, is that as you get down to the creek, right, 75 feet off of the creek, we can't touch. So the reality of it is that while I do understand Mr. Roberts' pool is very close to the property line, and I'll be happy to address that area and any other areas where we have specific problems, the creek bed itself is going to be a pretty strong natural buffer. There will be fencing where necessary. I cannot say that we're going to fence the entire property because candidly, I don't think that it would be appropriate or necessary, but we will absolutely do any fencing that needs to be done along the Greenwood or the Pollock subdivision connectivity. I'm happy to specifically meet with Mr. Roberts and specifically address any fencing or planted buffers with him along that area, since he does have some sort of pool or pool house or house very close to the road, and we'll be happy to do that. I think there's other areas where it really is pretty dense old forest that it's not necessary, but where it's open and where it is necessary, we'll absolutely do that. If you look at the old hospital, there's a pretty good stand of trees along there that gives good natural cover, but they're getting, they're tall, so we'll probably come in along there and put fencing in where necessary to keep but we want to promote interconnectivity within the project. All of the project will have double-line sidewalks that will get you out to the main sidewalk on Alcovey. There's lots of walkability within the project, so there's really not going to be any need or purpose for folks to not be walking where they're not supposed to. But we are happy to specifically address any of those fencing, buffering, set-off issues. And I know that Mr. Roberts in particular is one that we need to be sensitive to, because most of the other homes are a good 100 feet plus away from the property line. But his home, I can't remember if it's a pool or a home, is right up on the property line. And I'm happy to meet with him and do whatever we need to do along that area back there that's reasonable to meet his concerns.
Thank you for the answer. I'm very happy with the answer. Thank you.
Mr. Kelly, in general, too, if whatever takes place tonight, anytime development is done, though, obviously during development review, there are codes, there are buffers, there are design requirements that your group, they have to meet standards set by the state and local jurisdictions, correct?
As far as like the stream buffers and such as that?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, the stream buffers, 50 feet undisturbed, that 75-foot number was for impervious surface as well. And, yeah, the buffer requirements in the zoning ordinance are normally reviewed and required based on separation of uses. Oftentimes, it's not required between residential uses, but between a planned district and a existing residential neighborhood, we'd probably consider requiring some.
Okay. Any more comments or questions? All right, if I don't have any more comments or questions, I'm going to bring this to a vote.
Do I understand that you're
Can you come forward, sir?
Do I understand that right now, you're simply voting on taking Greenwood in, not the variance?
That is correct. Right now, we are voting to change from an R1 to a PRD. Is that correct, Mr. Kelly?
That's correct, and the professional zoning also of the American Legion.
All right. So do I have a motion to approve or deny?
I move we approve.
I'll second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. For the last item of this evening, the public hearing, we have a request for variance at 409 Greenwood Drive. Mr. Kelly.
Yes, sir, thank you again. The applicant wishes to construct or divide the property into 4 single-family resident lots on 1.852 acres. The square footage of the parcel could potentially yield 5.76 units based on a 14,000 square foot minimum lot area. The applicant requests the reduction of required street frontage from 100 feet to 77 feet to accommodate subdivision into 4 lots. Reading the petition here, this is petition number 18-00386, and the applicant, MUL Properties LLC, requests the variance of Article 7, Section 700.1, Table 11 of the zoning ordinance for lot width minimum. The request is for 409 Greenwood Drive. The Property consists of a total of 1.852 acres, as previously mentioned. The property has a total of approximately 310.49 feet of road frontage on Greenwood Drive. The Code Department recommends approval. The extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the subject property because of size, shape, or topography are none. The literal application of this ordinance does not create an unnecessary hardship. The variance would not cause substantial detriment to public good or impair the purposes or intent of this ordinance. The variance does confer upon the property of the applicant a special privilege denied to other properties in the district. The special circumstances surrounding the request for the variance are the result of acts by the applicant. The variance is not a request to permit a use of land, buildings, or structures which is not permitted by right or by conditional use in the district. The zoning proposal is not consistent with the construction and design standards and design criteria adopted by the City of Monroe. And the variance is not the minimum variance that will make possible an economically viable use of the land, buildings, or structures. We do note that we approve, we recommend for approval with the conditions as proposed, which the applicant can expound upon in a moment.
Okay, Mr. Rosenthal.
Thank you, Chairman. Now let's talk about Greenwood Drive. I know everyone's concerned about it. This is a portion of the 3.1 acres that was purchased from Ms. Dew last month. This is, I thought it was 419, so I wrote 419. My apologies if it's, oh, Mr. Mike, can you get me loaded? There we go. 1.852 acres. This is the frontage on Greenwood Drive that everyone's concerned about. And I want to talk through everything that I'm asking for, which is only one thing, and give a little bit of history of it. First is, all I'm wanting to do is be able to take a piece of dirt that would allow me, in dirt size, to build 5.5 homes, but in terms of road frontage, only allows for 3 homes. I'm asking for a 23% reduction in the road frontage to take it down from 100 feet to 77 feet to allow for 4 lots on the property instead of 3. So a couple of things. The lots will remain R1 residential. The lots will all be much larger than the minimum R1 size. The minimum R1 size is 14,000 square feet, roughly 1/3 of an acre. All 4 of these lots, as you'll see in a moment, are much larger than that. The only reduction requested is that the frontage be reduced from 100 feet to 77 feet. That's the only reduction requested, is a 23% reduction. Everyone knows where they are because you all live over there, but let's look at the vicinity map anyway. This is Pollock subdivision here generally. The subject property is highlighted in green. The green part is the 1.852 acres. And if you can see, that little 1.2 acre piece is the part that belongs to or goes with the Veterans Walk project now. And the creek is right in that area as well. So this is the subject property that we're asking for a single variance to be reduced from 100 feet to 77 feet. This is the site plan from the land planners. It's a little hard to see, so I've got it zoomed in here in a minute. But just so that you can see, here's Greenwood Road. This is the 3.1 acre piece that was purchased recently, and this is the 1.852 acre piece that will remain R1, with the only variance being asked that the frontage here be reduced from 100 feet to 77 feet, so that 4 lots can go in on Greenwood instead of 3. As a matter of right, today, I can build 3 houses over there without any variance or any permission. I'm simply asking for the 1 variance to be able to build 4 instead of 3. If we zoom in here, you can see them a little bit better. Lot 1 is 19,000 square feet. Lot 2 is almost 20,000 square feet. Lot 3 is almost 21,000 square feet, and Lot 4 is 23,000 feet. They all have 77 5/8 feet of road frontage as opposed to the 100 feet. And there are certain conditions that I'm adding on the parcel that I'm asking for that I think will ameliorate any concerns of there being 4 houses built versus 3 houses built. So I want to get into those. These are the details we've already talked about. One of the big ones is that we'll do shared driveways. So the code allows for shared driveways. So what you see in terms of traffic patterns is when you cut down on your curb cuts, you improve driving safety. So right now I can put 3 driveways on 3 homes with front-loaded garages out there tomorrow. If we're allowed to do the variance, we'll be allowed to do 4 lots with 2 shared driveways, splitting Lot 1 and 2 and splitting Lot 3 and 4. That will cut down on curb cuts along Greenwood Drive. Additionally, there are additional conditions that I'm willing to put on these homes and on this variance request that I think, they may not, but I think would ameliorate several of the concerns of the residents in the Pollock subdivision area. The minimum square footage currently is 1,600 square feet. We would make this a minimum of 1,700 square feet heated living space. There will be no vinyl siding of any type, only wood, hardy plank, siding, brick, stone, stucco, including even the eaves and the soffits. Very often, folks will come in and say, well, we'll put hardy board in, but we still need to put the vinyl in the soffits and the eaves. There will be no vinyl on the exterior of these. As a matter of right now, the homes could be built completely with vinyl siding. But I don't want to build that type of a project here. I want it to be a higher quality project. But in order for it to be a higher quality project, I need that extra yield of this one lot to be able to sell these lots for the price that I need to be able to sell them to get the right builder that will build these properly. I will not be building these houses. I've been very clear about that. These houses will be sold, or these lots will be sold to a local builder. They will not be part of the Veterans Walk subdivision development. I'll just simply sell them off and another builder will build them, but they will be required to comply with the added conditions that I'm recommending here. Wood doors only on the exteriors of the home. I know there's a lot of talk about these metal doors getting beat in and not looking good, so only traditional wood doors that would be look better, stained wood and glass doors. 2 shared driveways for the 4 lots, as I already mentioned. This is a biggie. It goes down from 3 curb cuts down to 2, but with 4 homes. And then another one that's big for me is that all garages will be located only in the 3rd layer of the lots. So most of your recent construction of the last 50 years has front-loaded garages. The 3rd layer of the lot is defined as that area at least 20 feet behind the front edge of the building lot line. So the first layer of a lot is from the road, the right-of-way, to the front edge of the home. The second layer is from the front edge of the home, 20 feet deep. The 3rd layer is from 20 feet deep back. All of the garages will be located in the 3rd layer of the lots so that we don't have front-loaded garages and the homes can be featured and look good in that area. I know there's a lot of concern about Pandora's box. I had a great conversation with Mr. Steve Brown. He and I talked, I guess it was 2 weeks ago, and one of his concerns, which is the same concern that was raised by Dr. Hartley, was that this would sort of open Pandora's box or set a bad precedent. So I wanted to analyze that, and I did. So these are the facts. This is the data analyzing it. As we all sit here today, there are 7 lots in Pollock subdivision that do not have homes built on them. You can see them all listed here. Number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then the 7th one is the subject property. I did an analysis of every single one of these lots by pulling the plats, and this is the question that I asked. If I apply the current zoning with no variances, how many homes can be built on those 7 lots? If I apply the variance that I'm asking for, which is simply a 23% reduction of the road frontage, how many homes can be built on those 7 lots? And the answers are this, and I have the data for you to look at, is if all 7 of those lots were built tomorrow out to the current zoning code and the current requirements, you could build 12 homes on those 7 lots without anyone's permission, permitted as a matter of right to do that. If you take my variance application request of a 23% reduction and you apply it to all 7 lots, that number goes up to 14. 2 more houses. That's it. So at the end of the day, the reality of it is that Pandora's box will not be opened by granting this variance request. This is a unique piece of property that's very large on the backside of this very developed neighborhood. And I'm not asking to go from 100 to 50-foot widths. I'm not asking to go to narrow width lots. These are still 77-foot wide lots that will allow for nice homes, and the homes will be matching in style and character or better than the homes that are currently existing in the Pollock subdivision area. When we had our meeting on, and the data is here, by the way, so that you can see it. If you look here, you'll see that the subject property could go from 3 lots to 4 lots, and 416 Springdale, which if I can go back real quickly, is unit number 5. Lot number 5 could go from 1 lot to 2 lots with the requested variance reduction. But if you look at all the other open lots in Pollock subdivision as we sit here today, either acreage or frontage minimums, even with the 23% road frontage reduction, would not allow those lots to be subdivided further. Meaning, 0 McDaniel Street, which fronts on McDaniel, under current existing standards can have 3. Even if you gave it a 23% road frontage reduction, you still could only get 3 houses on that parcel. Same thing for 506 Woodland, and frontage and acreage on that one. 400 Plantation, the frontage is not enough to even get, to go from 2 to 3. On 416 Springdale, it would allow it, and you would go down to a 90-foot width lot. You'd have 2 90-foot lots. I'm asking for 4 77-foot lots. So I just think it's important for this commission to understand that I understand there's concerns about Pandora's box being open, but I went and analyzed the data to see what Pandora's box is. We can build 12 right now, me and whoever owns these other 5 parcels. We can build 12 right now. If you grant this variance request and you granted it to anybody else that came down the pipeline, it would only add 2 more houses to Pollock subdivision. That's the basics. I do think it's important to highlight this. I want to work with the Pollock subdivision community. My phone number at my office is 770-267-2503. 770-267-2503. I will happily sit down and meet with, in my office or on site, anybody that wants to talk about this and go over the issues and see what we can talk about. And we may agree to disagree. But when we had our community meeting with 90 folks in attendance on June 26th, I was very clear and I did not change. I said I will not connect to Pollock subdivision, but I am going to ask for a few variances so that I can get 4 lots on Greenwood Drive. I need that in order for the metrics of this project to work. That's all I'm asking for. I've removed the interconnectivity at their request. I'm not asking for anything excessive. It's simply a 23% reduction in the frontage, and I am going to build better quality homes on those 4 lots than if you only had 3 lots that were vinyl sided with 1,600 square feet. It's a very reasonable request. I would appreciate a recommendation for approval from this commission up to the mayor and council next month, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have as well.
I did want to ask one question just to make sure for clarity. The standard is 100 feet and the lot size is 14,000, was that correct?
Yes, sir.
And so the variance is, the existing lots are divided up, if you did do it into 4, would be 77 width, but the square footage of the lot is actually 20,000.
Significantly higher.
Correct. And the square footage is you.
18 to 23,204 right there?
Correct.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I understood that.
Lot sizes will greatly exceed the minimum R1 metric.
Okay. All right. I don't have any questions. Do y'all have any questions? Yes, you will get a second. Hold on one second. Just want to make sure that we don't have any other questions from the commission.
No.
Okay? We will open this to the public, and please come to the podium.
I'm Mary Williams. I just have a real quick question. And thank you for your presentation. We enjoyed listening for another 45 minutes or however long it's been. Goodness gracious. My question is there another shared driveway in all of our neighborhood? I know for me personally, I think it's sort of strange, this sharing of a driveway. And I like the idea of 3 houses with their own little separate driveway instead of 4 with the sharing stuff. That's my question.
For the neighbors, is there? No. Okay.
That's pretty much what I was going to say, except I read Mr. Rosenthal's application. Oh, I'm sorry. I've read his application, and I think it said in there that his whole project hinges on this variance financially. To me, that's a huge house of cards that could fall if one little piece of this falls.
Would you state your name, please?
Nancy Beadle.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think all of us in our subdivision are well pleased with the fact of the project. We are still opposed to 4 houses on 3 lots.
Thank you, sir.
I'm Teresa Tanner. I'd just like to say something that seems very obvious to me. It's not conducive to our subdivision if you have to ask for a variance. That's a fact. And to make a conjecture about what might be built on those other lots, that's not fact. We don't know that. And this does not fit into what we all bought and wanted in that subdivision. And right now, the houses in there, the day they go on the market, they sell. It's a very good place to live. It is, and we bought it the way it was. I would not have purchased my house if I had known that there were going to be 4 houses there with shared driveways.
Anyone that wants to speak, please come to the podium.
My name is Dick Roberts. I'm sort of new to the community, but I've been driving around and looking at all the houses. And all the houses in Pollock are brick. So if you're doing siding, you're degrading the area. You're not improving it. You're degrading the area, you're degrading the property value. And as far as the shared driveways go, I ride all over the place looking at properties. And as far as I know, as far as 5 miles out, there are no shared driveways. Thank you.
My name is Arthur Bowick. I've been a resident of Monroe since 1967. I appreciate what Paul is doing. I think the whole project is an outstanding project. I think I told him so at the First Baptist Church. I may not have. But the idea of coming into a traditional neighborhood and busting it up by putting 4 houses on 3 lots, which we were told at first that's what it's going to be, with no shared driveways, just doesn't make common sense. I don't think Randy would like it if somebody come in their neighborhood, because I know there's provisions, nobody's going to build us if you got enough money. But anyway, the point is, we went there and built a home to raise our families the way it was. All the homes there right now are not what we would like, but that's up to that gentleman sitting over in the red shirt to do something about it. If people don't keep up their homes, he needs to do something about it. But we don't want 4 houses on 3 lots. They're either going to be shotgun houses, 408 houses, or whatever else you want to call them. They're still going to be small houses to fit in that neighborhood when you're not going to see any house like that in our neighborhood. It's just a simple fact of life. I appreciate what he's doing. He's got a great project, and I'll probably participate in something over there at some time. I ain't going to go cook barbecue, that's for sure. But it's not right, and I would appreciate very much if this commission would take in consideration that neighborhood's been there a long time, and it's going to be there a long time, and we don't want that kind of houses in our neighborhood.
My name is Mike Peters, live at 413 Springdale Road. Thank you, Mr. Rosenthal, for your presentation. I appreciate it. When you're talking about adding houses with shared driveways, and you're going to leave it to local builders to build those houses, I'm concerned about the kind of people that would attract and the kind of houses they may be built. Our subdivision's been established a long time. We're bringing in a lot of new young people into our subdivision. They're bringing their kids. They walk, they play, and they're nice neighbors. But I wonder what type of buyer you would get when you're asking someone to share their driveway with their neighbor next door. That seems more like something you might get from the Murrays or Arnolds of our community than you would from Mr. Rosenthal. So we would appreciate the properties being in a position where we could bring in more young people that would be willing to buy their own house, not share their driveway, not share their backyard, or anything else. So it concerns me, two things. You're selling this to someone else to build. I would feel better if you built the houses, really. But you're going to sell them to someone else, or locally, a builder that we don't know who it is, and you may not know who it is now. But I don't have a lot of confidence in the local builders if you ride around Monroe and you see the kind of houses that get squeezed into small areas. So if you want to look at the precedents of what happens in Monroe when there's small lots and we leave it up to the local builders to build, ride down South Madison. Look what happens there when they squeeze these things in. So while I appreciate you working with us and I appreciate your proposal, the sharing of driveways for two houses is not going to bring the kind of people that we want in the neighborhood. It's going to bring people that are probably going to want to rent. They're not going to be there a long time. It will be a perfect example of someone buying these houses up and turning them into rentals, because that's what you have when you have people that share driveways. And while I'm sure there are very good renters in town, that's not what our subdivision is established on. So I appreciate your time.
Before anyone else, I do have one question, Mr. Kelly, and maybe Mr. Rosenthal, you've already done the research. Is there the ability, if it is at 4 lots, to have separate driveways? Is there enough space?
Yes, there is. I'd love to hear all the comments from all of the concerned citizens, and then I'll be happy to address any and all concerns. But yes, we can get 4 driveways on those 4 lots. Yes, but I just want to know if there's anything else, because this is the first time I've heard this. Okay, if I can clarify, let me just see if I can clarify. I have sought out comment from the community. I've had people hang up on me that would not talk to me from Pollock Subdivision. I want to know what they want. Now I've heard a little bit of it, so I am happy to modify my conditions to see if I can address their concerns. If I could have had this conversation 2 or 3 weeks ago, I would have never brought a shared driveway arrangement to you. Some people like them. Obviously, Pollock Subdivision does not. I'm happy to eliminate the shared driveway issue. It's not necessary for the lots to be built. It was a suggestion so that it would cut down on curb cuts. So let me see if this helps and this works. I will be happy to remove the 5 conditions that I just listed out previously, and instead we'll offer up...
Phone side conversations, it's hard for us to hear Mr. Rosenthal.
I'll be happy to offer up these following conditions in lieu of the 5. 1,800 square feet minimum instead of 1,600 or 1,700. 4 driveways only, no shared driveways. And I cannot guarantee that they can all be brick. But what I can do is I can say that at least 25% of the fronts are brick, meaning you're going to get some brick fronts. If the predominant building design style is brick in that neighborhood, although it's not all brick, I'm familiar with several of the homes that are not brick, then I can offer up those types of conditions. I'm happy to work with the residents in any way, but tonight is the first time I was told that shared driveways were a big problem. I was trying to offer that as a way to ameliorate curb cuts. If they want 4 driveways, we can do 4 driveways. I know they only want 3 lots. I get that. The project does not hinge on this one variant. Let me be very clear about that. I'm trying to get some conditions on this so that I can sell these lots to better builders so that we will get a better quality build home in that subdivision. I'm not going to be building the homes. I don't have the capacity to do it. I don't have a contractor's license to do it. I'm going to be focusing on developing the project, the Veterans Walk project, and I want these to be quality homes. So if it works to get rid of the shared driveway, I can do that. If it works to increase the square foot minimum up to 1,800 so that they can be less concerned about rental scenarios or smaller home scenarios, I can do that. I can also add a minimum 25% frontage of brick on the faces of these so that they have brick features. I can't say, and this is very candid because I don't think that the price point of this neighborhood in today's market with pricing would allow for a 4-sided brick to be built. I just don't think it would. Others may disagree with me on that, but I can't say that we can do a 4-sided brick. I do think that we can do brick, 25% minimum on the frontage.
What is your setback on the road?
I believe the setback is the minimum required, as I recall.
35 feet?
Sorry, 25.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I understand Paul's situation, I really do. But there's two or three things I don't understand. Number one, why the fourth house is so important that he told us in his First Baptist Church meetings are going to be 3. He says already, standing here right now, he's going to sell those lots, and we're going to be back up there every time you have a meeting when somebody comes in and tries to do something different than what he said, because he can't make them do it. You know that, and I know that. If they want to come in and build a shack, they're going to get around to doing it. They'll have enough money to do it. He don't know what builder's going to buy those lots, and I'm not sure I understand why he says that better builders want 4 lots instead of 3. I thought better builders built better houses on bigger lots. So that don't really make common sense to me, but I'm not a builder. I'm just a country funeral director.
Mr. Kelly, out of clarification for the commission here. Currently as zoned, are the conditions Mr. Rosenthal is proposing as far as the type and quality, square footage, if someone else were to come in and buy this property, could they build something, that was not brick? If it was not Mr. Rosenthal, even if it was 3 lots, could they come in and put vinyl siding and do some of these things that the people?
Currently, if it was divided into 3 conforming lots with our current zoning ordinance, they could use vinyl siding or whatever.
There's not an architectural or a plan
Not at this time. And
for that development?
I will point out too, I believe the last house that was built in that subdivision is 4 sides vinyl, which kind of surprised me at the time.
I just want to know from a standpoint of if everything out there is brick or not brick, or could, if it was, somebody else bought it, it might not even be built brick. So is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. But if you grant the variance with conditions, then those conditions would be enforced.
No matter who built it, whether
Correct.
Mr. Rosenthal, if that lot had these conditions,
Those conditions would apply to the land.
not to whoever purchased, they couldn't just change it.
Correct.
Okay.
And they would be in effect for the duration of that zoning?
Yeah, they would carry with the land. I guess we'd have to record it as a deed specification, but yeah, that'd be something that would go with the land.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I want to talk about historic. That neighborhood is historic. It's been there a long time, and I don't think anything that's been proposed fits with the neighborhood. And that's a concern for us. And yes, again, it's just a projection that somebody might come in and do something else. I don't think we should base the decision on what might happen. We need to look at what he's planning to do. And the 4 houses won't come close to what's in that neighborhood and what we bought in that neighborhood.
Okay.
And I just think that needs to be considered. We don't need to consider what could happen. We need to look at what he's doing, what he wants to do, and no matter who it is, any developer.
Understood.
It's me again. It really boils down to this. The community, you can vote against us or you can vote for us. The community wants 3 houses, 1, 2, 3, that's all. 3 nice houses. No 4, 3. Whether it's, no shared driveways and,
Mr. Chairman, if we could have just one person speak for the crowd, and if the same person could not speak each time.
Certainly.
And if the garages are front or back, it doesn't make any difference, really.
All right. Any further questions? I think we've addressed or heard comments. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Jerry Roberts, I'm with him. Where the house is actually the closest. But my question about the 4, he's saying that it's imperative for his whole project. It'll be like a house of cards if he doesn't get why is it so important that he get 4 houses and it'll destroy the rest of his project?
I think he clarified by saying that it makes those lots more appealing for a builder to build 4
That isn't what
houses
he
than
said.
3.
He had said that it was very imperative to the rest of his project.
No, I think,
Veterans
and then
Walk.
he came back and clarified. Is that
Anybody here?
correct from the meeting minutes?
Yeah, I believe the fourth lot is imperative to allow him to develop or put the conditions on it that would make for a better product on the 4 rather than the 3. He could
That-
go by right, divide it into 3, and just build by the current zoning ordinance, but with no stipulations whatsoever.
Okay, but in essence, if it goes to 3,
I'll let Mr. Rosenthal address that. I'm not here to argue for or against, I'm just
No,
here to
not-
present.
okay, if it goes to 3, we can still, all of us, come in if they try to put up, I mean, they're going to have to show whoever the builder is, because he now says that if he's not the builder, if he sells the land or just sells it to a builder without any restrictions, they can do what they want. And yet, if he puts his 4 in, he'll do these extra things. But we still, as a community, can object. A builder coming in is going to have to do, like Mr. Rosenthal did, present a presentation, what are the houses going to, if it's one builder. If it's 4 separate builders, I don't know.
No, that's what I'm getting at. They don't have to do that. Once the property's subdivided, if they buy a lot, they can come in and build by R1A standards, exactly what's in the zoning ordinance, with a building permit and a set of plans, whatever they come up with that meets those requirements.
And so we cannot, when he submits his.
There wouldn't be any stipulations at that point. They could build
Is there
what's
any
in the zoning
stipulations-
ordinance.
Stipulations on that land at all? I mean, is an R1?
The R1 requires 14,000 square feet lot area and a 1,600 square foot house minimum
Okay.
of any code-approved materials.
All right. So this is not a part that everything falls on this 4th house. I still disapprove. I want 3 houses. I'm for the 3 houses.
Okay, if no one else has any comments? Okay.
Members of the Zoning and Planning Commission, thank you. My name is Ron Mullis. I live at My name is Ron Mullis. I live at 509 Greenwood, and I agree with all the comments made earlier to not allow the change from 100 feet to 77 feet, and I won't go into that. I think that's been covered, but a couple of questions that I have would be, has Mr. Rosenthal considered the watershed? Because those lots have water coming all the way down from Woodland and Plantation and Greenwood. So how is he going to control, or how are the builders going to control the watershed that's presently being dumped on those lots? And certainly I don't want it dumped on my lot, which is right next to it. So that's a question I had. Also, has Mr. Rosenthal considered the sewage hookup? Those lots, I know if they have basements, they will not make a connection to the sewer because the sewer line is not deep enough for the elevation of those lots. And has that been considered? And and also, how's he going to control the builders if he sells the lots? I mean, with the quality of homes and so forth. And in general, I think this is not for the betterment of Pollock subdivision, but it's for the profitability of a city attorney, Mr. Rosenthal. Yeah.
Does someone want to address the issues Mr. Mullis raised about the drainage and the elevations?
I'm happy to. See if I can just summarize this. I know that this could go on all day. First, the issues raised by Mr. Mullis on the watershed and the sewage hookup, those have both been looked at by the land planner, and we do not believe there will be any problems. Regardless, they will be built in compliance with all of the City of Monroe requirements. both including stormwater runoff as well as connecting into the sewer system. But both the watershed and the elevations of the sewer have been looked at by my land planner, and we don't believe there's going to be any problems getting into the sewer and addressing the watershed. As far as in the builder control, I'm being very transparent and candid with you, is I'm going to sell these lots. I'm not going to build them. If I get 4 lots with stated conditions, then there will be some control. If I don't get 4 lots and I have 3 lots with no conditions, they will be sold, and the conditions that will control are simply the R1 minimums, which is 1,600 square feet and vinyl siding. I don't want that to happen. Let me summarize the conditions that I'm willing to place on the parcel with a recommendation for the reduction from 100 feet to 77 feet in width. No shared driveways, 4 driveways into the parcel. A minimum of 1,800 square feet heated living space. No vinyl of any type on the exterior of the properties at all. Wood doors only, and at least 25% of the frontage will be brick accents. I'm willing to place those 5 conditions on the property in order to get this 4th house, this variance of a 23% reduction in the road frontage. And I appreciate the commission's consideration. Thank you.
There was a question about would front-loaded garages be allowed?
Front-loaded garages will be required with 4 driveways due to spacing. The shared driveway allows me to get the garages into the 3rd layer, but when we have 4 driveways, then we run out of width and we're not able to guarantee front-loaded garages. I'll do everything I can to get them into the 2nd and the 3rd layer, but I can't ensure that.
Okay.
Thank you, Commission.
Not just for us as a commission, Mr. Kelly, I just want to make sure we're understanding, even if this doesn't pass or does pass, the current 3 lots, okay, under R1, could have front-loaded, could be vinyl sided, and would meet all codes as 1,600 square feet, and there would not be any variance or approval or whatever required. Is that correct?
That's correct, except for it's not yet even 3 lots. It's a single parcel at
Single
this
lot.
point.
But I'm saying somebody
Yeah,
could,
if he subdivides into 3 lots, by right, he could do exactly what you just said,
okay.
or whoever builds it.
Folks, I think the commission has heard and understands the concerns of the public. We also have seen Mr. Rosenthal's presentation. I don't know if anyone has anything else that has not been stated thus far that needs to be stated again. So are we good? All right. So at this point that I look to seek a motion for approval or denial, or approval with conditions.
Really and truly, I think the 4th house would be beneficial to you because it would add in those protections that will not be there if the lots are sold. The 3 lots are done. With that in mind, I move that we table this until he can put those new conditions in writing and bring them back to us next month.
I agree with that.
I have a second.
Second.
All those in favor of tabling until next month with conditions in writing to be stated, say aye.
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 Correct.
That is what has been voted on. That is correct, sir. And just so the public understands, this is a recommending board, so it will go to the city once it's approved or not approved, it ends, but it still goes to the city based on the recommendation. At that point, that closes our public hearing portion. Do we have any Old business? Patrick, do we have any old business?
No, sir.
The meeting is not over. Can we
Folks.
please keep conversation to a minimum, please?
Order, please.
I thought you just said the public part was over.
The public part is
input.
over.
The meeting is not over. The meeting is not adjourned.
Folks, we still have further business. You are welcome to leave quietly. We do have some further business, and if you want to have conversations, please do so outside. So, Mr. Kelly, no old business?
No, sir.
Any new business that we need to bring forward?
Not at this time, sir.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Meeting is adjourned.